Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Enrollment at in-person schools is down and community colleges have been hit the hardest. Joining me to discuss is Gordon Drummond, President of Sessions College, to discuss the rise in interest in enrollment at 100% online colleges and training providers. Gordon, it's great to see you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
It's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Let's talk about why enrollment rates are down, particularly community colleges, and by how much.
Yes, Jill, there have been enrollment declines this fall. The National Student Clearinghouse came out with data in September that suggested that enrollment was down for colleges in general by 4% and by 16% for freshmen, but that the situation was perhaps even worse for community colleges. California Community Colleges, which is the largest community college system in the country, was projecting a decline in the fall enrollment of 7%. And many of the schools in their system were more adversely affected with declines of up to 20%. So the question is, why is that happening? Well, I have a couple of things to talk about. One is that for college students generally, COVID-19 epidemic has created a great consumer uncertainty that really affected the fall. So students and parents were unsure of whether classes would begin, and they were also unsure if they did begin, would they be safe and would they be effective? For community college students, they had additional barriers to entry. If you think about the community college student audience, students who attend community college include groups that are underserved. There are minorities and rural students. There are adult learners, students that are first generation. It's their first experience going to college. So for those students, they had additional barriers to entry. Think about attending college in a situation where you have additional parenting responsibilities, where you might be homeschooling your kids at the same time as trying to attend college. Think about attending college when your job is uncertain or more irregular, or perhaps you've lost your job. And then finally, think about attending college if you are on the wrong side of the digital divide, because many of the underserved student populations may not have the digital setup to access online classes. They may not have the stable home environment and other things that would help them take courses online if they were in fact available online at their community college.
So tell us about Sessions College.
Sure, I'd love to. So Sessions College is a fully online school of visual arts, offering degree and certificate programs in creative fields like graphic design, illustration, photography, and digital media. We focused throughout our history on serving adult learners and also traditional college-age students to prepare them for careers in the creative professions. One thing I think is very interesting about Sessions College is that we are a fully online institution. Many schools that offer online programs today started off life as traditional campus-based institutions. And when they went online, the reason to go online was to grow their enrollment. It was to reach new students. And in going online, because they were originally campus-based, they ended up replicating many of the approaches that they used for traditional campus classes in their online classes. So same class, same semester schedule, same number of hours per teaching, and so on, instead of rethinking it. We believe that online education should be adapted for the online environment if it's going to be effective. So we set out to design programs that are not only high quality, but also accessible and affordable for adult learners. There's three ways in which we do that. One is the courses are project-based. So the students are completing a series of projects that teach them creative skills, coding, design, dealing with different business scenarios, and they apply them to projects that simulate the kind of projects they get in the real professional workplace. Second of all, students get to learn from a faculty of creative professionals, so you're getting expert feedback throughout your program. And third, it's very applied, it's very practical. They're focusing on creating a portfolio of work that they can use to advance or begin their career. And on the whole, we've been doing this for 20 years now, almost as long as online education has been around. And we've got to the point where we have very positive outcomes. We have a graduation rate of 77% according to College Scorecard, which is higher than the graduation rate nationally for the community college, two-year college sector. And we also have an employment rate of 60% for our degree program students. So these are high outcomes, positive outcomes, and very positive for the online sector.
Why do online colleges carry stigma that they're not as reputable as more traditional institutions? As you had mentioned before, almost all traditional institutions carry online content as well.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'd like to answer it this way. The United States has what many of us believe is the best education system in the world and produces great institutions. I don't think anyone would argue with the quality of an MIT or a Columbia or a Stanford. But at the same time, we have a system that's very resistant to change and innovation, unless that change is provided by one of those traditional schools and in a traditional format. In the last 10 years, if you've been following education tech and the online education industry, there's been a lot of resistance to certain things. There's been a resistance to for-profit education as opposed to private or public education. There's been a resistance to career education as opposed to traditional academic higher ed. And there's also been a resistance to online education versus education that's delivered in a classroom. And it's kind of a paradox because I think in our culture, we have a tremendous thirst for knowledge, there's a drive for innovation, but we find it hard to think about education being delivered in a different way. And that has been compounded by, in the industry, certain regulatory issues and highly publicized failures of certain large online schools. But what I would say is this: if you're a consumer and you're looking for an online school, there are many high quality, innovative online schools that are operating now. And you should know as a consumer that if your school is accredited, that you have the ability to, because it's accredited, the school is expected to be transparent about its outcomes. So you can go on the website or on the government websites and check important outcomes like graduation rate or employment rate or student faculty ratio or accreditation status. So there's plenty of data out there for consumers to really evaluate the product and make sensible choices about their education.
Well, Gordon, let's expand on this a bit more because I've seen a significant uptick with EDU tech in the course of my coverage. In fact, we recently brought an EDU tech public on Nasdaq. Do you think online education and the improvement of the experience is here to stay even on the other side of the pandemic? Because one significant factor holding back people from higher education is the unattainable cost. We hold 1.6 trillion in student loan debt in the US, which is the size of a stimulus package, and I think outrageous for the opportunity to go to school. So if more students and returning adult students opt for online education, do you think cost and accessibility will fall in line with consumer demand?
I think cost and accessibility will absolutely improve. I think online education is here to stay past the pandemic, and it's really poised for growth for a number of reasons. There are long-term trends which are important in education. I want to mention just 4 of them. Pre-COVID, online education was becoming more increasingly accepted. 1 in 3 college students in the US before COVID were taking at least one online course as part of their program, and almost 15% of all higher education students were taking a fully online program. So it was becoming more accepted. Number 2, as you mentioned, the college debt crisis is a serious and unresolved issue that has raised questions about the value and the value for money in higher education. So as you know, and as you mentioned, the average student graduates with $30,000 of loan debt. It's an unsupportable situation. And I think online education can play a role in both providing a more affordable alternative and also help driving down the cost of education generally if traditional institutions are able to re-examine their cost structure. 2 more things that have to do with the balance between traditional college and adult learners are that in 2025, it's expected that there will be what they call an enrollment cliff. The number of students who are graduating high school and going to college is expected to fall by 5%. And that's going to cause a severe problem for many smaller schools that cater mostly to traditional college-age students. At the same time, the adult learner market is growing. The number of students who are classified as non-traditional is growing, is estimated to be somewhere between 50 and 70%. And a non-traditional student is someone who is entering college beyond traditional college age. They may have a family, they may have dependents, they may have a job. They chose to earn their degree later in life. And that's a sizable population that's growing, which colleges need to do a better way of addressing. I think online schools can do that because online schools can offer flexibility, affordability, and quality of outcomes. Flexibility is absolutely huge for online learners. Educationdata.org had a wonderful stat where they did a survey and they discovered that 47% of students who chose fully online programs were taking them because they couldn't, they just simply couldn't schedule classes at a physical facility. So convenience is incredibly important, and it's only been more so with all of the stress and the disruption that's happening as a result of COVID. Affordability is also a situation where an online school without the traditional overhead and campus of a traditional institution can really play a role by providing a program that's more affordable and giving consumers the option of choosing a focused education that's online versus a more broad liberal education that's at a campus. But finally, if online schools are able to provide quality of outcomes that is similar to traditional schools, if they can do students at a high rate, if their students are getting employed, if the program is contemporary and it's training students for skills that are applicable, then I would say, well, why not? Why shouldn't students consider an online institution as an alternative to a traditional school?
All right. Well, this online college grad appreciates the work that you're doing in the industry. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.